Evening, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody have a good day? I've been reading some of your comments. Seems like a lot of you got a lot of outside time today. That's fantastic. It was certainly beautiful outside today. So who we got over here in the chat room? Let's see here. We got Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. Cool Hand Luke is in the house. Teresa Bitters, welcome. Daryl, how you doing? Angie, spent some time outside. Good for you, Ange. Crystal Dove, Bill Gracie, Haley, and Crystal here. Took Gunner for a walk today. That's awesome. Daryl's arms and face got some sun. I think a lot of us are feeling that a little bit tonight. Eric Gurman. Hey, Eric. I spent a lot of time outside today as well. Good. DW, how you doing, man? Susan Egri with her obligatory one comment tonight. Excellent. Daryl and Jean are here. Candy, appreciate you showing up. Hi, Kim. Dave and Amy are here. Very good. Good to see you. Mike and Miriam. Joyce, cleaned and washed windows today. I hope that was at my house you did that, Joyce. That would be awesome. But somehow I don't think it was. So appreciate y'all coming out. Everybody should have gotten an email in the last 2 minutes from me with links for worship services tomorrow. Because YouTube is weird about how they do links. So I just want to make sure everybody got it. Check your email. If you didn't get it, like I said, you should have gotten it in the last 2 minutes. So if you didn't get it, put a comment over here and I'll post some links and get them out to you. Hey, Beth and Carl, welcome. Glad to have you guys. Gonna give a second for everybody to get on here and see what we're all doing. Jess is going to record and post mine tomorrow. So Jess is going to be posting videos because y'all know Jess is she's very tech savvy. Is really awesome about knowing electronics and how to use computers and post videos. She is uniquely gifted at that. And there's only really one piece of information that she didn't have, and I was able to provide that for her. She didn't know what a thumb drive was, and it was awesome that I could give her that last little piece of knowledge that she needed. So now she can do all this herself. So it's awesome. So good, Eric. Got the email. Good. All right. Janine Garden is in. Mulch is done. Congratulations. Bud and Barb, how you guys doing tonight? Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Jess Skinner, she's sitting at the lake, but don't throw her under the bus. Jess, I'm just here to spread the truth and let people know about things. So that's awesome. Eric Gurman, Mulch as well. Great weather for it. No doubt about that. So sitting at the lake, Jess. This is my jealous face right now. Wow. Nice night for that. I'm sitting here with this awesome scenery, as you can see back here. So, all right. Okay. I was up this morning. Hi, Haley and Gracie. Thanks for joining us. And Jess, give us updates on the sunset because I'm sure it's going to be God's going to put on quite a show tonight with that one. So, okay. 25 of you. I wondered with the weather being so nice if our numbers would be any good, but hey, I'm so happy you guys came out. This is about normal for us at this point. So appreciate y'all being here. Hey, Dennis, Trina, welcome. Glad to have you guys. All right. Give everybody another minute here to get on. The clock in my office and the clock on my computer don't agree much. The clock in the office is a little fast, so. All right. Hey, Toby, welcome. Long time no see. Toby and I were in an online meeting just about 12 hours ago, and now we're back to do it again because that's just how it is anymore. So, hey, Doug and Margie, welcome. What everybody have for supper tonight? We're going to make this be our flash poll for tonight as we're kind of getting started. Everybody tell me what you have for supper, and I will share with you what I had for supper. And a cool hand Luke finally got some toilet paper today. Luke, that's a lot of information. Thank you for sharing that. And cool. What everybody have for supper? Eric had pizza, some Chinese, steak and potatoes on the grill. Jess, nice. I had homemade mac and cheese and vegetarian corn dogs. It was awesome. Let's see here. Leftover spaghetti, pizza, salad, and fruit, sloppy joes, pizza, lasagna, grilled turkey over the fire. That's very good. Got some tacos here. Hi, Cheryl. Beer barrel salad, Mary. That sounds pretty good. All right. Pulled pork and brisket with salad. Ooh, Cheryl, very nice. So, one slice of Swiss cheese. One slice of Swiss cheese, Teresa. Oh, supper later with Rick. Okay, I was gonna say that that might lead to some malnutrition there. So good. All right, awesome. So, hey, okay. So after that question, how's everybody doing with the dangerous prayers about your appetite? I do have some updates on our discussion last night. I barely slept at all last night because my mind was flying after our conversation about this. What's your this? And steak, potatoes, and cabbage. Janine, not cabbage. No, but yeah, my mind was flying last night after we had that conversation about what's your this. I really like the idea of having that as part of our campaign. I have an acronym for this because that's what my mind was going around. I wanted something to be able to promote this campaign. It's something that was kind of catchy. So here's what I got, and I want you guys to jump in the comments and tell me if this sounds as dorky as I think it does, but I think it's awesome. So, but you know that I have strange taste about such things. THIS. The question is, what's your this? THIS stands for through him I succeed. Through him I succeed. THIS. What do you guys think of that? That any good? Is that t-shirt worthy? Through him I succeed. That would be on the back. And on the front, the t-shirt will be, what's your this? Talk to me. What do you guys think? Through him I succeed. About 2 a.m, that finally came to me, and I liked it. So, all right. Good. You all like it. That means I don't have to kick anyone out of the chat room. That's awesome. So I'm just joking about that. Because I'm thinking we originally had the Mom's Day 5K scheduled for May, and obviously that isn't going to happen. So the idea is I still want to throw some business to the t-shirt company we were going to work with, because as you know, all small businesses are just getting decimated right now. So I wanted to throw them the opportunity to make us some t-shirts. So if we can get this to pan out, we may have a t-shirt campaign going around Wayne Street. So, so on the front will be a design with our logo and some different things with the what's your this, and on the back, this stands for through him I succeed. And so that's where my mind is. I haven't been able to do very much creative here lately because we've been so limited on sermons. And I tell you what, writing sermons to do online and writing sermons to do live are very, very different experiences. And that's been hard. So it's nice to have a creative outlet because I have a lot of creativity bouncing around my head all the time. And it's nice to be able to do something with that. So cool. Yes, Gene, I'm very sure music is a whole different experience now. I've been hearing that from Josh as well. So, yeah. So thank you. All right, let's do some content. Let's see, chapter 2.6, right? Chapter 2.6, Jack in the Box. So, our good friend Gary makes a reappearance tonight. We talked about Gary 2 nights ago, and the idea of being broken and what that was going to mean. Or I think it was 3 nights ago, Gary showed up. But so when he started the church, his mentor, Gary, had those words for him, and obviously not something that most of us would consider to be terribly uplifting, but it was honest. So I don't know how many of you have read ahead in this book. I read the next 2 chapters because I wanted to know. We don't find out tonight. We find out tomorrow what the actual breaking was. I wanted to know because that may influence our conversations here. So I read ahead, and as you can imagine, what happens is really, really bad. Any of you who've read ahead to what will be tomorrow's chapter already know what that is, but it's something really awful happens. And so we can see that tonight, after having this conversation with Gary, Craig becomes a little paranoid. I mean, that's not to be unexpected in a very vague situation like this. But once tomorrow we get to the conversation about what exactly happened, that was this crushing moment, this breaking moment. Yeah, Gene, and yeah, that's why I wanted that to shape our discussion tonight. So even if you didn't read ahead, that's fine. We'll get to it tomorrow. But it's a bad thing, and really once we get to tomorrow night and you kind of hear what you find out, learn what's here. It is very, very likely that Gary saved Craig's career, because what eventually happens, and I mean, some of the stuff he talks about tonight is bad, but I've been through everything he talks about tonight. I have been through it one way or another. Nobody ever that I know of wrote in the newspaper about me. Who knows? But other than that, I've been around most of this kind of stuff. It's just kind of par for the course when you're dealing with churches that actually are making a difference. People get mad at you, whatever. So all this time, Craig keeps thinking, okay, this bad thing happened. Was it this? This bad thing happened. Was it this? And he's going back to Gary saying, gosh, can we be more specific? And Gary's like, look, dude, when it happens, you'll know. And that ends up being prophetic in a horrible way. So, so what I want to do for the first part of our discussion tonight is I want to use Gary as an example of how important it is to be faithful when you're called. Something horrible is coming. I mean, I guess I'm not letting too much out of the bag. Somebody loses their life, and it's really a difficult circumstance, and things like this can just destroy careers, and people hardly get over this stuff. I don't know that Craig would have been able to weather that storm if he hadn't been prepared by Gary. And some of the, some of the breaking and some of the preparing and some of the searching that God and Craig had done together prepared him for that. Hey, Cheryl and Jack, welcome. Had prepared him for that. I don't know that his career would have survived without that. So Gary, even though he has, so far has had a relatively small piece of the book, but his faithfulness in talking to Craig, made what was a disastrous situation, stopped it from becoming, decimating, where he couldn't come back from it. So Gary becomes a very great example of be faithful. When God gives you the nudge, and y'all know what the nudge is, when you get the nudge to say something, do something, do it, because there's a reason. And clearly Gary and Craig's relationship has a very, very specific reason for existing. And, it was to help Craig. Obviously, I'm sure there was more to it than this, but Gary became a rock for Craig during a very bad time. So that's a lesson to all of us to be faithful when we're called, because God has a reason. He doesn't call for no reason. So if God puts the nudge there, there's a reason for the nudge, and you're cheating somebody if you don't respond. So something to think about when we're talking about breaking and possibly acting or trying to support somebody or trying to love somebody. These things are very important, because you just don't know what it is exactly you're investing in, what exactly is you're preparing for. You have no way to know. Gary had no way to know. I'm quite sure, and you're going to find out tomorrow, that had Gary known exactly what was going to happen, he absolutely would have prevented it. But Gary didn't. All Gary was doing was being faithful with what he had. And I'm sure that when everything was said and done, Gary probably felt as horrible about all this as Craig did. So, all right. Okay, so all right. So Gary had given Craig the heads up on the breaking thing, and they skip down to the second paragraph, the paragraph that starts with, "He was so confident in his prophetic statement that I never doubted him." So Gary spoke with a very special kind of authority. And y'all know that authority when you see it. You know, when somebody's speaking and all of a sudden you're going, this is probably something I should pay attention to because there's a special kind of nuance, a special kind of meaning, a special kind of something, who knows. But it comes across in such a way that you realize you're in the presence of something special. And that's what Craig found himself in. And that's why Greg became a very special person. And Greg became a very special person in Craig's life because I'm sorry, Gary. Gary became a very, very special person in Craig's life. Get all these names mixed up here. And had no way to know what it was. So now the question I want to ask is, I'm going to put a question to you here. What does the confidence that Gary was able to show in a situation when, honestly, at this point, because we've not discussed what it was yet, at this point, Gary was just going based on his experience, his own prayer life, following God's lead. I mean, that's what he's working with. What does being able to speak with that kind of confidence, what does that tell us about Gary? What does that kind of confidence tell us about what Gary did and is doing and has done for Craig? What does that confidence tell us about Gary? Okay, Candy, he's been there, done that. Yeah, certainly. And he was allowing his experience to speak into Craig's life, which that is a tremendous gift if you can do it properly. And he was tuned in to the good Lord. Absolutely, there, Teresa. He wasn't relying on his own abilities, but he was relying on a higher power, God. Absolutely. Anything else? Anybody want to chime in here? What does that tell us about Gary? I know there's a lag, so I'm trying to give everybody time to jump in here. Okay, again, back to the experience. Yep, Gene, I would agree. He was speaking from personal experience. Okay, Eric goes with experience, a true disciple, and a true he walked the path. Again, back to the experience, Kim. I would agree with that. So he had something he was working on there. Yep, disciple, good. The Lord may have been speaking through Gary, Bill. I mean, clearly, and there's a very, very special kind of confidence that comes with that. So, with this kind of gift that Gary gave to Craig, how important are Garys in our life? If I can make Gary a plural, how important is it to have Garys in your life? And do you have Garys in your life? I'm not asking you to name who they are, but do you have Garys in your life? Because that's very important to have a couple of Garys around. How important? How valuable are Garys? And do you have any? Okay, good. Teresa, Cheryl, and Eric. Yep. Yeah, different ones at different times, Cheryl. I would agree with that. And I think that, because different seasons call for different experience, and that's true. And just whatever. Toby, I would go so far as to say an obnoxious, arrogant person does not fit Pastor Tim's definition of a Gary because they're in it for themselves. Clearly, this Gary was not in it for that. So people who are trying to give you unsolicited advice or try to pry or whatever, yeah, forget that. So, yeah, Barb, very important, very good. Kim, important if they're Christians. If they're not Christians, they're not Garys by my definition. So, yes, I would agree with that. Candy, I would agree also. We may not realize the Garys we have around and how important they are. That's very true. And Sue's very important to have Garys. They tell us the truth and we trust them. And That's true because we identify who they are. I mean, you go through and you know a few of them who they are. People who you love to ask questions to because you want to hear what they have to say. And Jess goes very valuable. They are. I mean, especially in people who work in churches professionally. Jess, they are extremely important. Mentors, people who challenge us to be accountable. Gene, that's extremely important. Barb says she has several, and that's great. Ann says very important. Bill, yes, they're usually experienced. You can shed understanding of events and experiences. Absolutely. I mean, they're not, again, not Gary's if they're not doing that. So, and Paula agrees. Absolutely need Gary's. Very important. Yeah. We're actually coining a lot of new words in this study. Now we've coined the term Gary. So there it is. New word for you all to use. Somebody who's a valuable mentor and is connected to Christ and helps keep you accountable. They're now a Gary. So congratulations, and you're all welcome on that new word. Yeah. If you're lucky, they're also a great friend. Again, I don't know if they can qualify as a Gary without that piece, without the piece of caring about you and having your legitimate best interest in mind. I don't think they qualify as Gary in the way we're using that term. So you guys got it. So I would say part of your challenge for tonight and tomorrow is going to be, if you know a Gary, thank God for them. And if you know a Gary, drop them a text message or an email or write them a letter. Because a lot of times Garys are unaware of who they are. And, it's always nice to be appreciated. I mean, let's be honest. And I don't mean fake. I mean legit appreciation. A really good friend who can be honest with you is a Gary, Linda. Exactly. And who is your Gary? Creating an acronym that might keep him up for tonight. Oh, no. Got to come up with an acronym for Gary. But Gary has a Y in it, though. How about Gary? How about Gary? I'll come up with something. My challenge is to come up with something by the end of this lesson. So we'll see if I can multitask here because y'all know how good at multitasking I am. If I go for 5 minutes without saying something, somebody call me on my phone. So cool. All right, so there we go. Computer went to sleep. All right, so we love Gary's. And Batman, yes, we love Batman. So, all right. All right. Man, you guys got this acronym thing. You're tearing it up. Candy and Cool Hand Luke. God always writing yourself. Yeah, it's also good to be a Gary, Barb. No question about that. Let's see. All right, so let's go on. If you go on to the paragraph here that says, actually, like the third full paragraph, he said this paragraph that starts with, so I started praying one of the most dangerous prayers anyone can pray. God, I trust you so much. I know that you love me. You're always working in me. If you want to do something more in me, then do it. That, my friends, is the epitome of dangerous prayer. So my question for you is then, this prayer, I'll read it again. I'll just read the last sentence because that's really the pertinent one. If addressing this to God, if you want to do something more in me, then do it. How might that prayer translate to your life? If you want to do something more in me, then do it. How might that prayer translate into your life? The prayer that says, if you want to do something more in me, then do it. Can you translate that to your life? It could help provide clarity for us if we just don't see what we are being called to do. I mean, yeah, providing clarity, because I think sometimes I think I agree, Toby. We have a desire to serve and I think I kind of hammered you guys on this the other night. You have a desire to serve. You kind of got your mind running into where you want to go, and you want to do all these great things, but it becomes very difficult to be specific. And I know some of you the other night were writing some stuff on there, and I was saying, look, that's great, sounds good. Be specific. If I'm going to my this, I think we were talking about that around our this. When Jesus says, "Do this in remembrance of me," the more specific your this is, the more likely you are to do it. Because sometimes I think we think of being called by God as being this great, kind of mysterious, not specific, change the world kind of thing. When I think sometimes, I'm not saying God doesn't get big calls like that. I think I know that he does, but I don't think they're all that way. I don't think all of God's call comes that way. I think there are also times when God says some things very specific. I need you to take 50 cans of Chef Boyardee cheese ravioli over to the Senior Citizen Center. That's a very, very specific this. And I think in the midst of that, it becomes easier to do when it's specific. And I think a lot of people, and I know this is not the time of year for this, but a lot of people fall into this trap with New Year's resolutions. They make them so broad and so sweeping that you can't ever make progress on them. A lot of times when you, I don't know if I should use this example, but a lot of times special interest groups in politics, they'll have this list of gripes and grievances, and they're angry about all this stuff, and they want the whole system to change, and they're going to boycott, demand, riot, protest, whatever until they get it. But you go to them and say, exactly what do you want us to do? They have no idea. They can't articulate exactly what they want. They just want the whole thing to change. And it doesn't work that way. Increments are important. God may be calling you to a point that's way, way out there, but there's probably some steps along the way. And sometimes the Garys in our life help us come back to the steps. I think back to a couple of days ago when Gary and Craig were having their original conversation. Craig was like, "Oh, we're going to change the world. It's going to be a worldwide ministry, and I'm going to preach the gospel to thousands of people, and we're going to have music, and we're going to have lights and sound, and blah 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 blah." And Craig's and Gary, I mean, you can almost picture the guy sitting across the table going, "Guy's going to break you," and Craig's like, "What?" You could almost see that because Craig was seeing, the big vision, what's at the end of the road, where Gary's like, maybe we better just think about the next step first. Because you try to get too many steps mapped out there, and suddenly you're taking the journey of 1,000 miles in a single step, and you're going to pull a muscle if you try that one. So, so when you're thinking about whatever it is you're going to respond, or whatever you're going to do, or how this this prayer of, if you want to do something more in me, then do it, praying that prayer to God may come back and say, all right, we may have a goal, and that goal may be way out there, but here are some steps. And sometimes we get so excited about the goal that we never embrace the steps, and that means you're never going to get there. It'd be like, say, me calling one of you up and say, hey, let's go on a road trip to San Francisco. And you say, wow, San Francisco seems like a nice enough place. Maybe we should go there when COVID-19 is no longer a thing. And so everybody says, great. And they're like, how are we going to get there? I'm like, oh, I don't know how to get to San Francisco. I've only been there once, and I was there for like 15 minutes. I got off one plane and got on another one and left. I don't know anything about San Francisco. I've seen pictures of it. And all of a sudden we're like, how are we going to get there? Because we got to have a map, we got directions, or maybe plane tickets or whatever. There's a lot of steps in getting to San Francisco. A lot of steps. And so if God says get to San Francisco, he's probably going to provide some smaller steps along the way. Now, we get frustrated with it. Look, you're looking at Captain Frustration. I like things to happen fast. I mean, yesterday is not fast enough to suit me. So you start talking about slowing things down and allowing steps to take place and stuff, I will run right over that. And a lot of times God's like, Tim, that's really cool that you're way out there, but I'm still back here. We're still working on this. And that can be frustrating to, these type A personalities like me and like many of you. It gets on our nerves because we would rather take all the steps. And God's like, nah, we're going to get this one first. Craig, you're not going to have that church of thousands of people, and you're not going to have this worldwide influence until we get this breaking thing down first. And I think sometimes that's what we say to God is the biggest part of yielding God's will is saying we're yielding to the plan, the whole plan, not just the end, but every step along the way. And I can tell you, having been working, in churches for 2 decades, there's a lot of steps that got me to this point. Lots of steps, more than I could even begin to tell you about tonight. And some of them were awesome. Many of them were not, but all steps are what got me here. So if Godwin went back to when I was 16 years old and he started bugging me about becoming a minister, and the next day I was the pastor at Wayne Street, failure would have been a compliment to what would have happened at that point, because I wasn't ready for this. I still sometimes debate on that. But there's been a lot of steps along the way to help me prepare to get to this point. And to try to skip those steps because we like the ends so much, you're asking for trouble. So when we look at this, my new favorite word, when we look at this and say, through him I succeed, through him means the step in front of you, not the step 27 miles down the road. Because exactly, Eric, the journey is not important. The journey is the purpose. The journey is the purpose of what we're doing. And as weird as this sounds to us, and I think Gary had a clear handle on this, as weird as this sounds for us, God is more interested in the journey than the destination. If it was just about converting thousands of people and making them come to know Jesus, God had lots of ways he could pull that out. He didn't need Craig to do that, but he took Craig on a journey. This is about Craig's journey. Yeah, were there great things happen along the way? Certainly. But it was all about getting Craig to the place that God wanted him to be, where he could write a book. So we here at Wayne Street during this crazy coronavirus shutdown can have a conversation about prayer every night for a couple of weeks on this YouTube thing that probably didn't exist, a couple years ago. And there's no way Craig could have had that in mind. No way. Yeah, here we are. Because Craig took the journey. He didn't skip to the destination. Do y'all see how that works? Do you see why that's important? The journey is what matters. Destination, and nothing's not important, but it's not the point. Y'all with me? This is the day. That's right. We're not talking about a day weeks from now, are we, Teresa? We're talking about April the 4th. Okay, everybody with me? I felt like I talked a long time there. You guys still with me here? Got 37 people logged in right now. I appreciate you guys coming out. So, all right, good. Linda Burkholder is now elected spokesperson of the group. She said, yes, I'm taking that as where it is. All right. All right, good. So there's people here who agree with Linda. That's good. Linda's a good person to agree with. All right. So as he continued to put this prayer in here about if you want to do something more in me, then do it. In light of that, the very last or the next to last sentence, he says, as part of this prayer. All right. Hey, you guys are on it now. Life is what happens when we're making other plans. Tim Dickey, well said, my friend. Randy Ryan, how are you doing? Welcome. Thanks for coming out. And our young people do need to hear that thing because they're all about the destination when the journey is what matters. Absolutely. Kim, yeah, we wouldn't be who we are without the journey. No truer statement has ever been said. So very good. All right. So as a part of that prayer of inviting God to do something more in me than do it, he continues that on to say, asking God to crucify my love of comfort. To crucify my love of comfort. Now, in my new obsession with being specific about things, to say crucify my love of comfort, again, that's a very broad statement because there are lots of things that make me comfortable. My bed makes me comfortable. My own house makes me comfortable. These tennis shoes I'm wearing make me comfortable. This is one of my favorite shirts. I really like this shirt. It makes me feel comfortable. This is my office. I feel very comfortable here. But also not having people pull guns on me makes me comfortable. Not having people threaten me or say bad things about me. I mean, comfort can be defined lots of ways. So if God was going to go through and crucify your comfort, what kind of things might that be? What kind of things might that be? What kind of things might get crucified in your life if God, if the good Lord went through and crucified your comfort? What kind of things in your life might get crucified if God went through and crucified your comfort? Okay, there are some worldly things in there, probably some possessions that take up more time, effort, money, so on and so forth, than is necessary. Some free time, ask me to do something I'm not prepared to do. Yeah, that those two things probably could be part of that. Harm to those I love. That would probably be a thing that may ask you to give up. What other kind of comforts might the good Lord ask you to give up? Okay, could be to lose a job. In an extreme case, sure. Taking a loved one too soon. I mean, that certainly loved ones are a source of comfort. Take away our smartphones. Don't be getting personal here, Gene. The comfort of your job. Cool hand Luke for most of us, just sitting in a different pew to church. Maybe we'll do that first Sunday we come back. Nobody's allowed to sit in their own pew. No, never mind. I want to keep my job. But yeah, I think you're right. Location, Toby. I mean, you and Luke are kind of on the same page there. Uh, those are creature comforts that can become very, very. What's the word? Very, very. We can aggressively defend them if they were threatened. All right, some things that we take for granted. Again, as some of you have mentioned some specifics around there, loved ones and relationships and locations and comfortable surroundings. A lot of stuff might need to go because we don't want to set that stuff down, and we can become very okay. So some of your freedom in becoming a caregiver, Beth, um, that's one that my family knows extremely well, and so that can become a something that you end up giving up because of a circumstance. So yeah, you guys got it. Things that could go if you were going to give up your comfort. Many of the things we take for granted every day, Ange. I got you. So, all right. So the next paragraph he writes here: take away our bubble. Tim Dickey, I'd agree with that, and give up everything and move. I've done that about a half a dozen times in my life now, so I know about that one. I know many of you do too. Let me read this whole paragraph to you because this is a part of the prayer. It's the next sentence after the one he wrote here, and this is part of the prayer that he puts out there. And then I have a question about this. So listen as I read, and I'm going to ask a question. Although God doesn't say yes to all my prayers, somehow I knew he was likely to answer this one, the prayer to say, break me. Believing the breaking would come, I braced myself. Surely it would happen. Now, today, if not today, tomorrow, soon, God would break me. Though I trusted him every day, I waited and wondered, would it be today? That last question. When he's and I think we've already went past the part where he compared this to a Jack in the Box. He called it a terror in the box. I mean, think about the toy of a Jack in the Box. The creepy music plays, and all of a sudden the thing jumps out and scares the kids. Yeah, it's super fun, guys. Nice job. But don't anticipate. That's right. But the idea is he says, would it be today? My question about that question, his question of would it be today, is that a positive or a negative? And I want you to think about that because there are two ways to look at this. If you're saying I'm going to, lose my job, which many people are facing right now, every day you go to work, you're asking yourself, would it be today? It's going to happen. And that's an uncertainty that's upsetting. On the other hand, you could be, as a little kid, you don't really understand how calendars work, and Christmas is coming because you see all the decorations and the tree and stuff, and every day you think, oh, maybe today's present day, and it turns out it's not. But at that time, it's an excitement. Will it be today that we open the presents? And you find out, no, it's only Thanksgiving or something. But you understand that. So there's an anticipation part of being excited, but there's also a dread or worry part of that, as Gene says here. Which way do you think that is? Now, my guess is, and I agree with Gene, for him it was a dread. And it can become debilitating, Candy. It can. But, and I'm not saying, and again, what happens to Craig is awful. It is awful what's going to happen. But so there's no being excited about that. But knowing that there's growth in this, knowing that there's going to be moving closer into God's plan and all that kind of stuff, there could be an anticipation in that. But I think there's a lot of fear in it too, because it's the unknown. But I'll tell you, looking back in my life now, a lot of the stuff that I was the most terrified of is stuff I'm the most glad happened to me. Doesn't mean I enjoyed it when it was happening, but I'm glad to be on this side of it, of course. But it has helped shape me into who I am today. Spending time worrying about it, Kim, yeah, that can be a very difficult thing. So, yeah, Gene, it can be a relief once it happens, because once the suspense is over, you move forward, deal with whatever it is. Yeah, sometimes the unknown is far worse. And any of you who've ever had conversation with people who have very ill loved ones, you'll find that it's the unknown that's worse. Even if it's the worst case scenario, at least they know. And yeah, Beth, it's kind of a part of it. Is that Darren Cordray? Do we have somebody from Cincinnati in this chat room? Darren Cordray, man, I appreciate you coming out. Thank you for being here. We're here every night at 8 o'clock, man. If you want to join us, you can follow Wayne Street's YouTube channel. Appreciate you. Hope Amy and your boys are doing well. Yeah, it can be a negative because as Darren can explain to us in great detail, there's a lot going on in this world that you don't want to get out in front of God, and I know Darren knows that, and because God's timing is always perfect, which means you don't want to be ahead of it. So great. Linda Burkholder agrees with Kim. Yep. And good. Angie. Hi, Amy. Welcome. So very good. And I'm glad to hear it, Darren. You guys hang in there. I'm so glad to have you out here tonight. Amy's been liking some of my stuff on Instagram, so it's been good to see you. My sister sold me out. Yeah. Sisters are good at that. So very cool. All right. Those sisters, you can't trust them any farther than you could throw them. That's my insightful thing for tonight. So, okay. So, going on, he goes through, okay, this is the section when he talks about the Jack in the Box. So he goes through that discussion, which is kind of funny. He does it kind of tongue in cheek, and I certainly agree with him. And so, okay. So once he finishes that, he goes on to a time when he says, I heard that starting a church was difficult, and I have never had the honor of doing that, but I can imagine that that's a tough thing. I've led a lot of change in a lot of churches, but I've never tried to open one, so I can imagine there's a lot of things. So one of the things that he prayed, and I want to kind of go back to this. There's a series of observations that he makes here that I'm going to point out to you. The question I'm going to ask about each one of these observations that he shares is I'm going to go back to the prayer that he said. He said, "Crucify my comfort." That's what he prayed. Crucify my comfort. So, in the midst of this, for each one of these steps I'm about to say, the question I want you to reflect upon is, what was crucified? What comfort got crucified in this experience? So if it's about God peeling away layers and pulling down challenges and putting Craig to the test and making him learn and making him grow and stretching him and forming him and all this stuff, I want to know in each one of these observations that he makes, what was crucified? Okay. First thing is they lost the facility they were renting. They for those of you just joining us, he's planting a church. And it says one of the first things that happened is they were just getting off the ground, and then the place they were renting, they lost it. They lost their space. What was crucified? What comfort was crucified in losing their original location? What comfort did they lose? Yeah, Toby, you kind of already got to that one. Familiar setting, that could be a very comforting thing. Got them out of their comfort zone physically. I mean, that can be a difficult thing to experience, especially in a new church start where you're doing everything you can to try to build some affection for a location. To be out of that would be difficult. Okay, the next thing he lost was a news reporter wrote a scathing article about me that questioned my motives and created rumors and gossip that hurt my family. What was crucified in that newspaper article? Okay, confidence and safe space. I think that's back to the location. What in that newspaper article? I'm not sure what that word is there, Janine. The building. The building is not the church. Okay, so the next thing he lost was reputation and his privacy, Suze. You got it. These are two things that he lost in the newspaper article. I mean, suffering is one thing. Suffering publicly is certainly another. Reputation, Randy and Candy got that one. Yeah, and let me tell you something. When you're trying to establish yourself in a new community, self-esteem and reputation are huge. And I'll also tell you, this job that I do, privacy is not something you get a lot of. So a couple of you hit on that. Paul and Angie got the reputation thing, and that's hard because a lot of people, all they're going to know about you is that article in the newspaper. That's a tough hill to climb because you're already trying to establish your establish your presence, get people to pay attention to you and care that you're there. And now that you got some moron down at the newspaper working against you, and that doesn't help. So, all right. The next thing he says here is the workload was crushing. The workload was crushing. What comfort was crucified there in the crushing workload? Crushing workload. All right, the crushing workload. All right, time with family, time, personal time, time and friendship. I'm seeing a time theme going on here. So yeah, I mean, there's only so many hours in the day, and only so much time you get with your family, and it was sleep, mental strain, creativity goes right out the window when that time gets crunched. Absolutely, and taking time away from doing anything else you want to do because there is nothing else. So the workload can be crushing. Many of you in your jobs have experienced that from time to time, and I certainly have too. And yeah, sleep, because even when you do get home, you don't sleep because your mind is running 100,000 miles an hour, and that can wear on you after a while. And your health starts to follow closely behind that, Toby. Exactly, because you're not sleeping, you're not taking care of yourself, you're not taking time to eat well, not getting any exercise, or maybe getting too much exercise, depending on what you're doing. That can be very consuming. Okay. The next step he talks about some of his leadership as a young pastor, and mental problems. Linda and Eric, yep, absolutely. He made mistakes as a leader that hurt people. He says close friends got mad and left the church. People get mad, leave churches all the time. Most of the time, we pastors don't get too upset about that. But when there's people that we have personal connection to, man, that's awful. That is awful. I've been there. That's awful. So what comfort was crucified when close friends got mad and left the church? Relationship, connections, and confidence. I think those are three things that went right out the door real quick. And yeah, trust. Yeah, I tell you what, you have a few people that you have a personal connection with blow you up like that. That's hard. Yeah, I think they left the church or possibly left their faith because of you. And I've had people tell me they walked away from Jesus because of me. I didn't believe them, but when there was a personal portion to that, that could really hurt. Support, sense of self worth. Am I doing the right thing? That question comes up a lot, Darren. Linda, support, personal support for clergy is a rare thing. So I can imagine that's very much like standing on an island, and self esteem goes right out the window with that. So, yep, I think you guys got that one good. Let's go on to the next one. Oh, hold on here. I had to let staff members go. One was a close friend. That felt like a death, having to let staff members go. What comfort was crucified there? What comfort was crucified in having to let staff go? Okay, support. I mean, probably not a lot of confidence because once you let some staff go, other staff is just wondering again, is it today for me? Um, yeah, support goes. Morale, I think, probably goes right out the window with that one too. Because any of you right now who are in places where people are losing their jobs because of COVID-19, um, I mean, morale is just garbage at this time because nobody's feeling it. Okay, support system, couple, you got that one. Losing friendships, yeah, Linda and Kim, that's certainly a possibility, and that's a hard thing to deal with because it's not something anybody wants to have to be a part of. That's why it's when the expression "it's lonely at the top." Let me assure you, that is the truth. Okay, I support his vision and feeling alone. Yeah, it's very lonely doing that. Angie, support close friendships, being part of a team. Yeah, any of you who ever been on a close knit group of any kind, and you lost somebody, whether for positive or negative reasons, that hurts the dynamic. So certainly that did. Especially it says he says one was a close friend he lost, another was a family member. I mean, you had to fire a family member. I mean, that's rough. So and definitely would be a lonely feeling. So, okay, so every time, yeah, yes, the livelihood of that person, yeah, always thinking about that. Um, so after several rounds of these painful experiences, Craig keeps going back to Gary and saying, Gary, why? Is this it? Is this the breaking? And basically, Gary's answer is very interesting, and I mean, this is what he says, but I'm gonna paraphrase it a little bit. He says, when you're broken, you won't have to ask. When that moment comes, God comes along and breaks you, you're not going to have to come ask me if it happened. You're not going to need me to tell you. Even though you're still a novice, you're still young, you're still learning, you're still working, you're still figuring all this out. When that moment of breaking comes, you won't need me to verify it for you. You're not going to have to call me and ask if this is it. You'll know. And any of you who read ahead to tomorrow's chapter, you already know that it's awful. So, and we'll get to that. Like I said, I've said like 76 times tonight. We'll get to that tomorrow. Any of you who've ever been through a season of brokenness, you don't have to ask. You know when the test is coming, or when it's arrived. You know that, and you know it very well, and it's awful. So, very good. And that takes us. He has one last sentence here. 3 words. He was right. And as we're going to read tomorrow, we're going to find out that Gary, to nobody's surprise, absolutely was right. So, all right. Well, we have reached the end of our discussion tonight. Thank you for coming out. I have an acronym for Gary. Who's interested in hearing it? I have an acronym for Gary that I worked it out while I was sitting here. Who wants to hear it? Anybody interested in my acronym for Gary, or should I make you wait till tomorrow? Y'all know I'm not going to make you wait till tomorrow. So, all right. So we're going to get to that in a second. I hope that you all. All right, ready? Acronym. What is a Gary? Gary. A Gary is guiding and regulating you. Guiding and regulating you. How am I doing? Darren, I'll get you info in the book here in just a second. Guiding and regulating you. That's what Gary's do. That's what Gary has done for Craig the whole time. He's guided and regulated him. So Gary, Gary's are guiding and regulating you. So if you want to be a Gary, you got to help in a helpful way, because there's certainly a not helpful way to do that. But if you want to be a part of being a Gary to somebody, you got to. I'm looking at some of these emojis. What the heck is that? So you gotta help guide and regulate somebody in a helpful way. I mean that I realize that goes without saying, but you got to do that. So, yeah. Darren, the book that you're looking for is, pull it up here. It's called Dangerous Prayers. And let me get the cover up here for you so you can look at it. And because this is awesome, it's just going to be like this. The cover looks like this. So, Darren, this is the book you're looking for. I hope it's right-sided. It's backwards on my screen. I don't know if it's backwards on your screen or not. But Craig, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Groschel? Okay, cool. And you can get it on your Kindle for a couple bucks. And tomorrow we're going to be doing chapter. Somebody tell me what chapter we're doing tomorrow. 2.7, is it? Is it 2.7 tomorrow? Yes, 2.7. Entitled Breaking Bad. I'm hoping there's no, is it heroin the guy from Breaking Bad was making? There'll be none of that in this chapter, I'm assuming. But yeah, so yeah, for tomorrow, it's 2.7, titled Breaking Bad. So, all right, cool. Be praying about Darren and some of the rest of you who are new tonight. Keep in mind, we'll be here every night, 8 o'clock, the good Lord willing. So log on to our YouTube channel for Wayne Street. Easiest way to get there is to get in my email or the email I just sent out, which may be why some of you showed up tonight. So get into that, or you can go to our YouTube channel and put in reminders for the stuff I have set up there. You can't use this link again because once I shut this live stream off, this link goes away. So I'm sorry, Cool Hand Luke. It was meth they were making, not heroin. My bad. I'd never actually seen the show. So, yeah. So, yeah, get in here. And in the email I sent out, there's a link for tomorrow night also. So I hope you all will join us. But our YouTube channel, we're here again every night, 8 o'clock, the good Lord willing. Tomorrow we'll be doing 2.7. Our big question that we're asking, because we're in phase 2 of the prayer cycle right now, is about talking about the Lord breaking us. Obviously, I said that 500 times tonight. And we're talking about when Jesus was serving communion and he broke the bread and he shared the cup. He said, "Do this in remembrance of me." What we were talking about, often we interpret that as meaning, do this, meaning eat this bread, drink this cup in remembrance of me. And that's a great thing to do, to remember Jesus. Absolutely. But Craig went on to define that as meaning actually doing things. I am doing this so I can experience this in my life in remembrance of Jesus. I'm going to go help at the food pantry. I'm going to not I'm not going to be a glutton anymore. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to stay away from that. I'm going to do this in remembrance of Jesus. meaning more than just take communion, which again is awesome, but there's more to it than that. So, and I think that conversation, which came from the chapter from last night, 2.5, I thought was the best chapter in the book so far. So, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, we will find out about this terrible thing that happened, and it is awful, and I'm sure will spark a lot of conversation tomorrow night. So that'll be a good thing. And tomorrow morning, any of you who are joining us for worship services tomorrow morning, First Light will be premiering at 8:30. Wayne Street Awaken will be premiering at 10:45, and you can. Good night, Cheryl. Thanks for coming out. You can click the links are out there, and if any of you don't have them, if you have contact information for me, text me or email me. I'll be happy to get you whatever information that you need to be there tomorrow. So we'd love to have you join us. So we'll be having services at 8, our traditional service at 8:30, and our contemporary service at 10:45, and then they'll be available to watch after that anytime on YouTube. So also, if you join us for worship tomorrow, don't forget we are going to be having communion. So have your elements, have your crackers, your bread, whatever you want, your grape juice there, and make sure you've got that tomorrow because we'll be taking communion. First time in my career, we're going to be blessing communion elements over the internet in a prayer that I said on Wednesday. That's now going to be here because that's the world we live in now. But I appreciate all you guys coming out. Can't wait to be in worship with you tomorrow morning and being a part of this. Hi, Brennan. Good to hear from you, buddy. Are you 11 feet tall yet? I'm just curious. So, all right, everybody. I love you all very much. Appreciate it. Let's see. There's a certain thing I always tell you guys to do right before I log off. I'm trying to remember what that was. Just a little thing we're supposed to be doing with this COVID-19. It's oh yeah, I remember. Everybody, go wash your hands.